Hello, Molweni, Sanu, Hujambo, I'm Bekele Mkhototo, and this is Unwrap Africa, where every Sunday night we focus on the latest news, trends and successes of the African continent. Coming up tonight, a South African government delegation visits Lesotho to finalise plans to repatriate some of the remains of South Africans who are still buried in the capital, Maseru. Later in the programme, we'll speak to Nigerian soccer journalist Osasu Obayiuwana and commentator Christopher Bongo regarding the controversial AFCON final between Morocco and Senegal and what the future of the tournament should be, especially when you look at the frequency at which it's held. As always, we want to hear what you make of some of the biggest stories on the continent. And tonight we're asking if you think Nelson Chamisa's return to politics in Zimbabwe after a break will actually spark change in the country. We'll take your thoughts on the WhatsApp line, +27 8459 1897. You can also find us on Facebook, where we are SABC Unwrap Africa, and on X, our handle is SABC News_TV. Let's have a look now at the main stories from the continent this week.
And I've seen it fit that I'm back on the floor to dance for my nation, to dance for the citizens.
The former leader of Zimbabwe's opposition Triple C party, Nelson Chamisa, has announced that he's returning to active politics.
As this is happening right now, and an election just got rigged in Uganda, the East African community is watching, the African Union is watching when a presidential candidate is threatened.
Well, the leader of the opposition in Uganda, Bobi Wine, says he is not a criminal. It's after reports that he's gone into hiding following the recent election in the country in which President Yoweri Museveni won a 7th term.
The situation continues to evolve quite rapidly. Rains are still expected to continue for the coming days, and the water dams are already at full capacity, so the situation could worsen, placing further people at risk.
An estimated 600,000 people have now been affected by flooding across the southern and central parts of Mozambique. The provinces of Gaza, Maputo and Sofala are the worst affected. The areas have experienced heavy and persistent rainfall since December. And the military junta in Guinea-Bissau has announced that the country will hold presidential and legislative elections later this year. That's in December. The announcement follows a transitional charter that was published last year. It bars the transitional president from running for election. 5 soldiers and 1 police officer have been killed in an ambush in Zamfara state. That's in northwestern Nigeria. No groups have claimed responsibility for the attack, but authorities have described the attackers as terrorists. And Senegal's national football team has received a rapturous welcome on their return to Dakar Monday as winners of the African Cup of Nations tournament. The president of the country was also at the airport to welcome the team. So a South African government delegation has been to Lesotho to finalise plans for the repatriation of some of the remains of South Africans who are still buried in Maseru. South African Deputy Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Peace Mabe, was in Maseru for a 4-day bilateral engagement. So the entourage will also proceed to lay wreaths in memory of the lives lost during the Maseru massacre. That was in December 1982 and again in December 1985.
The South African Minister of Arts, Sports and Culture is on a week-long bilateral engagement to Lesotho.
The bilateral meeting.
The tour will include high-level discussions with her Lesotho's counterpart to revive and advance a draft agreement on cooperation in arts, agriculture and heritage.
South Africa is now in a mission of working with the government of Lesotho to work the processes of repatriating those cadres, and we as the Lesotho government will make it possible for them to do that exercise. We have seen them doing it in other countries, And today, I understood even deeper the importance of that process, as she has alluded to me, that the family members of those people, they are crying all the time, well, will our sons, daughters, and cousins be repatriated?
While the 4-day visit will touch on broad aspects of cooperation, the key priority this time is working on the final arrangements of repatriating the remains of the ANC's 1982 and 1985 massacre cadres.
So we are here as the South African delegation on behalf of the government of President Cyril Ramaphosa to do a very sensitive process, a process that is coupled with emotions of repatriating our martyrs that perished in Lesotho. We are here not to say that we are closing the chapter with the Lesotho people, but we are here to strengthen our ties with the people of Lesotho. The delegation that is here is the technical team that will be leading the processes. The purpose of this visit is for us to formally say that the President and the Prime Minister have given us a mandate. They've agreed that the remainings of the South Africans that perished in Lesotho should be brought back to South Africa for families to find closure.
Mabe says this cooperation will further explore and ride on the reach and thriving talent shared by the two neighbors.
Now there's a new talent that has born in Lesotho, Sanere. If you think that is popular in Lesotho, come to South Africa. Taxi rank, private cars, events, everybody. So we want to also strengthen our bilaterals on arts, sports, and culture.
I'm Rapelang Khatebe for SABC News, Maseru, Lesotho.
Well, tensions remain high in Uganda days after a closely contested presidential election. At least 30 people are known to have been killed following those elections. Several opposition figures are currently in hiding while arrests have been reported, and international concern is growing about potential crackdowns on human rights and political freedoms. SABC's Michael Bekele reports.
Uganda's political climate remains uncertain following the January 15th presidential election, which declared long-serving leader Yoweri Museveni the winner with more than 70% of the vote. The result has been rejected by his main challenger, pop star turned politician Bobi Wine, who says the vote did not reflect the will of the people. Across Kampala and other major cities, security has been visibly increased. Police and military patrols on the streets as authorities respond to post-election unrest. Uganda's army commander, who is also the president's son, says around 2,000 opposition supporters have been arrested in recent days. He also says at least 30 people were killed during operations he described as targeting security threats. Opposition leaders say many of those detained were peaceful supporters or accredited polling agents, while rights groups have raised concern about how some detainees are being held. Bobi Wine remains in hiding, according to his legal team, after rejecting the election outcome. His wife says soldiers raided their home on the outskirts of Kampala late Friday, and that she was assaulted and later treated in hospital.
The group that came to raid our home was a different group. They were so many, heavily armed, drunk, and they looked the same and spoke one language. They broke into the gate, the lower gate. Our askari was in a different corner, so he saw them and he called me.
Authorities have not commented on the allegations. The United Nations Secretary General has urged all sides to exercise restraint and respect human rights and the rule of law. President Museveni is now starting a record 7th term as Ugandan leader, but questions remain over the national unity and political direction of the country. Michael Bekele, SABC News, Kampala.
Let's return you now to our question of the day. We're asking you about the latest news out of Zimbabwe, where Nelson Chamisa, who's a popular figure, or has been a popular figure in opposition politics, has now announced this weekend that he in fact intends to return to politics in the country. Do you think this will spark some change in Zimbabwe? Let's look at your responses. Muzuguru says that he's the reason why Edmondson Mnangagwa cut short his holiday. This disaster theory is a fallacy. Maseru says, don't see why not. No one else has been brave enough. And one here says he's not strong on the ground in reference to Nelson Chamisa. Mukuvaza Edmo says, if you want to see his power, just look on social platforms. He's the best foot forward as of now. He went for sabbatical. No one managed to fill the vacuum, even to be near. He is the deal. And Marvin Gudyanga says that he's not just advocate Nelson Chamisa, but President Nelson Chamisa. Thank you. So that's how some of you are reading the situation in Zimbabwe following the announcement by Nelson Chamisa that he's returning to active politics. We'll have a look at much more of your responses when Unwrap Africa continues. So then the recently concluded AFCON tournament has still been the subject of much controversy and debate. You might recall the chaos that played out during the final between hosts Morocco and the champion Senegal. One of the talking points has in fact been around the standard of officiating during the tournament. Let's take this further now with Nigerian soccer journalist Osasu Obayiuwana and analyst Christopher Bongo, who are joining us now on Unwrap Africa. My thanks to you both. Thank you so much for making time to be on SABC News this Sunday. So let's start first with the issue around the standard of officiating. Chris, you first. How much of a role did it play in the controversy during the final?
Thank you very much for inviting me here, and it's great always to see Oga Osasu in the podium. First of all, the controversy about the refereeing, it is general everywhere around the world. And when somebody is asking you what is the standard of officiating in an AFCON, that question is already a wrong question, because it is the same question you would ask for in the World Cup, is the same question you would ask for the English Premier League, is the same question you're going to ask for Bundesliga. So my personal opinion as a football fan and a former player, people who talk about officiating referees are those who did not win.
So what then needs to happen now, when you consider that we now have reports in the last week that there is a recording, apparently from the VAR system, that shows, or from where we can hear, the referee wanting to end the match, I think about 10 minutes into the walkout by Senegal. And what implications might that have going forward, Osasu?
You know, the more things change, the more they remain the same. For those of you who don't remember, we had a very similar incident in 2019 at the Rades Stadium in Tunis between Esperance of Tunis and Wydad Casablanca in the second leg of the Champions League final, where the players of Wydad left the field. And the Gambian referee, Bakary Papa Gassama, was in charge of this game. After the players refused to come back to the field to continue the game, he ruled in favor of Esperance. They were declared winners of the Champions League. Unfortunately, CAF did not respect their own regulations and went to have a meeting in Paris to order a replay of the game, which was overturned by CAS, that saw the rules of CAF and chastised CAF to respect their own rules in dealing with the matters that happened that day.
Right. Does that mean then, Osasu, on that point, and maybe you can answer these two things. Maybe you can answer these two with the conclusion or the end of your previous response. I wanted to ask you if from what you've just laid out, we're seeing perhaps a discrepancy and unfairness in how tough CAF is towards players, teams, versus sanctions for referees?
Listen, the referee is the president of the final. He is the boss. Not the CAF president, not the ECCO members. He, the referee, is the boss. And how he manages the game is wholly a matter for him within the confines of the rules. If it is proved from documentary evidence that he acted in a manner that is contrary to the rules and is unethical, then let the chips fall where they may. I think it's not really that complicated if that is the case. The matter is before the CAF disciplinary committee now. They will examine all the evidence and they will give their ruling. And I wait for the ruling with keen interest.
And Chris, let me come back to you then and ask you the same question about
I wanted to add,
what you think in terms of how tough CAF is in dealing with players versus referees, for instance, and what the outcome of this investigation will ultimately mean.
I wanted to add what Osasu said. In the law of football, Jean-Jacques, the referee of the night, was very lenient to Senegal. Once you have 5 players or more leave the field of play, the game is stopped. He could have actually stopped the game and they give the final trophy to Morocco, which all the social media, fake journalists, they would have said, CAF has sold his spirit to Morocco. So they were very lucky, Senegal, to be champions as we are speaking. So it was, they were very, very lucky. At the end, they should be punished. They should be punished. They should not be banned, but they should be punished. So as a fan, that's what I would have to say.
But Christophe, they are going to be punished. There are no two ways about it. What they did is wrong. Nobody can dispute the fact that that action was wrong. However, as I have said in another program, there is always a context to issues. And the behavior, the officiating of that referee, if there is a football jail, he should go there and be put there, because that referee's quality of officiating was appalling. Appalling is not acceptable at all. The goal that Senegal scored was a legitimate goal. No two ways about it. The reason why that goal was not given was because the referee blew for a foul before the goal was scored. What was this foul? We don't even know what it was. Where did that whistle come from? For what reason? So these are the things that created the unsavory atmosphere that led to the fiasco that we saw.
I want to move on then to another issue, Osasu, that involved you directly, the contention with your interaction with the president of CAF, Patrice Motsepe, around the changing of the AFCON format as it stands. Let's revisit the reservations that you had, and particularly the suggestion, in fact, that that may be tweaked to benefit Europe or a European audience.
Well, if it's for Osasu to answer, it would
I was asking Osasu, actually, Chris. I'll get you to respond once we've heard him out.
Okay.
Listen, the CAF president is not a monarch. He is the custodian of African football, its chief custodian. And a custodian means that you are taking care of something which does not belong to you, but belongs to others who have entrusted it to you. The African Cup of Nations is 69 years old. We have our customs and our traditions which have worked for Africa very well. When he became president in 2021 March, he also said that there was no reason to change the frequency of the African Cup of Nations. And in his announcement on the 20th of December to change the frequency to 4 years. He has not given us any cogent reason why 69 years of heritage should be trashed and put in the bin. He has also not given us anything to show, okay, let's even assume he's right, which I don't believe he is, but let's assume he's right. What are you exchanging the heritage for? What is Africa getting in exchange for ending a biennial AFCON?
Okay.
He has not shown us anything that is worthy of trashing this heritage.
Chris, do you
And
agree
that
with
is why-
Osasu's reading of the situation?
Well, like I said in the beginning, I am not in the presence of the president as Osasu, but I will assume a president does not walk in because he's not a monarch to make a decision that is not being taken by the committee seriously. I will assume that's what CAF has done. So let's go back, Osasu, when Patrice Motsepe became a president. One of the things that he came very clear to say, wants to do two things. Number one, to make CAF profitable. Number two, to make African football respectable. Let's look at now what has happened. In the profitable side, I don't have the papers that you often have, Osasu. It looks, and when I read it in the public record, it looks like CAF now has changed from being in a deficit to becoming profitable, which means there is a success. Two, now African Cup of Nations has been watched worldwide. 108 countries watch AFCON versus 195 countries in the world. So his reason could have been, and it could be, I want this to be profitable if we make it 4 years in SACO. But there is the elements that we're not talking about. Of course, there is the heritage. And of course, there are customers, and customers can change for a good reasons. And one of them, we do have CHAN every single year. Christopher Bongo, I am very excited about having CHAN every year than having AFCON every 4 years, where we don't develop players. Gentlemen, and all our players are developed from the European countries. We don't develop players.
Right.
All the players that we love, they're not coming from us. So let's have CHAN every single year. Let's develop players in Africa.
Okay.
And let's now have AFCON with 70% of African players than 70% of European-based players.
Christophe, thank you so much. Thank you to you as well, Osasu. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I'd love to have you guys both in for a much longer conversation. I suspect we could have spent the entire program between the two of you discussing this issue, but thank you indeed for a wonderful discussion on the end of the AFCON tournament. Thank you. That was Nigerian soccer journalist Osasu Obayiuwana and analyst Christopher Bongo. You're watching Unwrap Africa. And welcome back to Unwrap Africa. Before we go, we want to end on a colourful note tonight because entrepreneurs at art markets showcase the continent's rich cultural heritage. From beadwork to stunning woodwork, the artists are not only preserving Africa's traditions, but they're also feeding their families. Our producer, Nonhlanhla Mthembu, went to one such market in Rosebank.
African markets drive the economic growth of Africa, and they are a host of the beautiful artwork that many men and women of Africa design with their own hands.
This one we are calling Timbira is made from Zimbabwe. The name is originated in Zimbabwe. That's called Mbira. We have a music, it's called Mbira Zenarira. That is the name. Is opportunity to design with metal and wood to play sound, and it comes Mbira.
There's a lot I've been able to achieve through this business. I have provided for my children and take them to school. There are many opportunities to survive in Africa. There is profit here if you can just find that unique skill and make it work for you. Why is it important for you to build what represents Africa?
We see there is another white people. They are coming to Africa. They can't carry the lion to go with it. That's why we make the art for them. When they see a lion in the forest, they come, they buy the lion to represent Africa in Europe.
Incredible, the creativity of Africans on display at the Rosebank African Art Market. Best way to come to an end of another edition of Unwrap Africa right here on SABC News. We're back with you next Sunday at 8 p.m. That's it from the team. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.